In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. I'll be 6 months retired by the end of March. Keep that grin off your face, Steve. Do I miss running a parish? No. I don't miss PCC meetings. I don't miss phone calls in the middle of the night telling me that the roof alarm has gone off again. I don't miss explaining to bereaved relatives that no, they can't have a pink granite heart-shaped gravestone for their granny. And I don't miss responding to the diocese's latest wheeze on ministry and mission. So what do I miss? Well, hearing the bands and seeing the couples. Yeah. I do actually miss preparing engaged couples for their weddings. I don't know about you, Steve, but after 25 years, my preparation had settled into a fairly standard pattern. After the hellos and how did you meets, I asked the couples what they like about each other. It's a more difficult but more, I think, revealing question than what do you love about each other. Loving makes you lovers, but liking makes you friends. And in the end, that lasts longer and nurtures the love. Well, on one occasion, the groom started to give a list. His fiancée's sense of humour, her enthusiasm for life, her tenacity and strength. He hadn't finished when she, with some emotion, thanked me for asking the question. He never said those things to me. I had more than a little sympathy for the man. I asked him whether he thought that, having once told her that he loved her, then he could just let her know if he ever changed his mind. I meant it as a joke, but he nodded and agreed. It's not enough, I said. Your fiancée needs you to tell her, and for your sake, you need to do it. Words are powerful. The things we say affect other people, color their image of themselves, build them up or break them down. But they also affect us, change us. Say something even in jest, and a bit of the attitude, a bit of the belief sticks to you. Say it often enough and it starts to mold who you are. The things that we say by way of habit help form our character, determining not just what we say, but what we think and ultimately who we are. Words said, words spoken in earnest, words spoken in anger, words spoken in jest, can never be unsaid. There can be and there should be reconciliation and forgiveness. There can be healing, but the scars remain. If the words are repeated often enough, then the damage done both to the speaker and to the hearer can be very difficult to repair. Words matter. What we say springs from who we are and what we think, but they also form who we are and shape what we think. What we say matters in our relationships, and it matters in our faith. If you confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved, says Paul. To confess is to speak out, to proclaim. Believing that you love someone is one thing, telling them is another, telling others something else again. It changes things, solidifies things. Don't speak the words. and you could change your mind without even noticing, but say them, and you're forced to admit the truth of what you say. Believing in your heart is good. Speaking it with your mouth makes it real, makes it strong. Confessing your faith, declaring it to others, changes who you are in their eyes. No slipping back. You're making it plain that this is the path that you have chosen. Saying it puts you on God's side, aligns you with him, gives him the opportunity and the permission to be at work in you. And if you welcome God to be at work in you, then you are being saved. Jesus hears the voice from heaven at his baptism. You are my Son, the beloved, with you I am well pleased. And immediately he's taken into the wilderness. For 40 days he seeks to understand what that voice, what those words mean for him. We know nothing of the temptations during that period except that they were continuous. Though perhaps the final three, of which we are told, sum up all the rest. Jesus was hungry. He'd eaten nothing for 40 days. Why not turn a few stones into bread? It would harm no one. It's difficult to see what the sin would have been. And if he's uncomfortable with it, Jesus could simply have resisted the temptation and not done it. But would that have been enough? A choice not to this time? But what about the next time? Maybe a different occasion would mean a different decision. Jesus replies, Jesus speaks. Quoting Deuteronomy a bit earlier than this morning's reading, when the children of Israel, fleeing from Egypt through the wilderness, begged Moses for bread, Moses replied, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. The point is not about bread or no bread. It's about trusting God, understanding that all things are in his hands, recognizing that he sets the purpose and meaning and direction of our lives. It's not for us to take our fate upon ourselves. And once Jesus has spoken, the marker goes down, no turning back. The second temptation is easier to understand. Of course you shouldn't, of course you wouldn't worship the devil, and of course you don't. Or at least you don't if you see him as a pantomime figure with cloven hooves, little horns equipped with a barbed tail and leathery wings, surrounded by a pungent odour of sulphur. If that is the devil, then I've never had the slightest inclination to worship him. But that's not the challenge that Jesus faced. Worship me, says the devil, and all the good things that you want can be yours. You want an end to war? Says the devil. You can have it. Just like that. You want an end to hunger or poverty? Just say the word, and I will make these human creatures do whatever you want them to do. Just admit that they are mine, and you can do with them what you like. It's the promise of the PR man, the slick advertiser, the snake oil salesman. This is how you sell washing powder and motor cars and chocolate, and this is how you sell Christianity. I can make it cool, I can make it popular, it just needs a little tweak here and there. Do what I say, and it can all be yours. Think of the good you could do. You cannot build Christianity, you cannot build anything honourable or just or true at the cost of manipulating others. Again, it is not only that Jesus refuses to act on the temptation, but that he speaks the word. He doesn't argue that the devil can't do it, only that he, Jesus, will not go down that path. The ends do not justify the means. And Jesus speaks plainly. He will follow the righteousness of God. Very well then. says the devil. You say you are going to trust God. Prove it. Prove it to me. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to God. Prove it to the thousands of people who will be watching when you cast yourself off. See that you are indeed the Messiah of God when they see the angels hold you up. And when they see that, they will follow you. Jesus won't do it. Throwing himself off the temple will not prove his trust in God. The only people who ask for proof are those who do not trust. If Jesus will not coerce and bend people to his will, much less will he attempt to force God's hand. So Jesus speaks. Do not put the Lord your God to the test. Each spoken refusal sets down an unmovable barrier that shapes Jesus' ministry. His life is the outworking of the words that he has spoken. They are who he is. And the words that we speak do the same for us. Be mindful of what you say. Your words are powerful. Powerful in their impact on others. Powerful in their ability to mold you. Use them carelessly or lightly and they become a prison within which you are trapped. Use them deliberately and thoughtfully and they are mighty weapons. If Jesus is your Lord, then don't be afraid to say it. Ask God to send his Spirit to strengthen you, to confess with your lips what you believe in your heart. You can practice saying what you believe here amongst friends, but it becomes confession when you say it to your family and your friends and your neighbors. If you know that God is with you, say it. If you know that he has forgiven you, cleansed you, set you free, say it. If you want to see his kingdom come in your life, in the church, in the world, say it. And as you say it, as it becomes rooted in you, and you in it, know this, that by the power of God's Spirit, you are being saved. You are being molded into Christ's likeness. And that the words of your mouth and the meditation of your heart will be acceptable in God's sight, now and always.